Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Co-Star and the Asbury Park Press, our official newspapers, and posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building and posted on the municipal website. Roll call. Councilman Brennan?
Here.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Here.
Mayor Holzberg?
Here.
Councilman Carvelli?
Here.
Councilman McCracken is absent.
Thank you, April. Everybody can join me in the salute the flag of our great nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody can just remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, their families, all our first responders, and Eileen Watts, our Councilman Tom Brennan's sister, passed away since our last meeting. Thank you. All right, workshop first. Councilman Brennan, want to bring up anything on that?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. One little way to, I have a neighbor who's been fixing up the house next door to me. They've done a lot of work, including replacing the shed in the back with a new garage, and they need a driveway. And when I was talking to them about what they are going to do for their driveway, they mentioned that they're worried they're so close to hitting their impervious coverage. So I said, well, there are products out now. There's a product that I've seen the county park system use called TrueGrid, which is, when you look at the company's website and look at their materials, they say if you install it properly, which means the most expensive way, you're going to get 95 to 100% permeability, meaning basically no impervious addition to your coverage at all. And when I mentioned that to my neighbor, they said, yeah, but in Belmar, that the way the ordinance is written, that's still counted as 100% impervious, because our ordinance is written in such a way that the only option you have for something that's permeable is a certain kind of paver, and that was applicable when it was written 20 years ago. The technology has changed tremendously, and I mentioned to the mayor that I think it would be a good idea if we looked at that ordinance and see if there's a way to have our ordinance reflect real world conditions. I think that's one of the things that bothers, I know it bothers me, I think it bothers members of the public when they see that some of our government rules just don't make sense. Where's common sense? Did it not come in here? What's that thing? Do the laws of physics not apply in Belmar? Does the water not go through? So I wanted to get some other input from other council members to see if there's something else, because I know that one of the things is the zoning board has asked us many times. I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware. The space in your driveway between your inside edge of your sidewalk and the front of your house, where most people leave their cars, according to our ordinances, that's not a parking space. If you're going to, for any kind of building permit and you want to include that as part of your parking obligation, the first thing you're told is you can't, because our ordinance says you can't. If we were to actually enforce that, if we went around and started ticketing people for parking in front of their houses, dozens and dozens and dozens of people would be getting tickets. Again, where's the common sense? So thankfully, the mayor has started working with April, our clerk, and with our engineer to see if we can come up with some language.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll be working on that. We'll have something by the next meeting.
That would be great. Does anybody think of anything else? I mean, I'm sure, you know what happens? It's like you're moving along with your plans. I can totally empathize with my neighbor who's been working so hard. They put a lot of money into their house. And, all of a sudden you think you understand because you're using common sense, and some kind of rule comes up and it's like, no, you can't do that. I think we should be able to word our ordinances, especially our land use ordinances, in such a way that they allow for newer technologies, for changes on the ground to come in and be applicable. Because, if somebody wants to spend a load of money on installing a driveway that has 95% permeability, they should be able to get credit for that. Absolutely, is my opinion.
So, yeah, we're gonna have the engineer take a look at that ordinance and see what we can come up with.
All right.
Well, we'll have it on for, next meeting.
Great.
If we can make those changes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else, for workshop items? Very good. All right, so we're gonna move on to, the 2022 budget amendment hearing. So, we have our, auditor and our CFO here, so they're gonna explain to us, the changes that we need, on the amendment.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The purpose for amending the budget is, actually, there are 3 items that specifically needed to be addressed, and they were brought to our attention by the auditor. The first is, we consulted on the appropriation for resale for gasoline and diesel fuel. Because of the continuing high inflation and the upswing in prices, we felt that we needed to add some additional funds to those to the revenue and the appropriation, so it's an offset. So that goes from $1.5 million to $1.8 million, or a $300,000 increase. That's the only change to the current fund portion of the budget. The other 2 changes, one of which is really not that significant, is in the water sewer utility budget. There is a decrease in the amount anticipated for rents to reflect the actual amount collected in 2021 as required by statute. So the figure is going to change from $3,602,000 to $3,594,850.45, or a change of $7,149. It was an oversight on my part that I included the original estimate of what our rents were going to be without making the adjustment for the actual collections. So that is a minor change. Not so minor as the increase in the amount of surplus that we're using or applying to the budget this year is raising from $505,256.82 to $980,357.10, or an increase of $467,950.23. And that is directly related to the ordinance number 2013-11, which was adopted by council. And the original purpose was the painting and rehabilitation of an above-ground water storage tank. When council went to move forward with that project in 2019, they discovered that there were no funds in the ordinance. And the reason for that is that the ordinance had been spent on other purposes, some of which were not appropriately charged to the ordinance. So the information was gathered by our staff, sent to the auditor for review. The auditor staff prepared a report that went to the Division of Local Government Services. The division oversees our fiscal operations of every municipality in the state. And the division advised that we needed to raise those funds in the budget in order to offset the unallowable expenses that were charged to the ordinance. So that there is a brief explanation that each member of council received that basically lays out what the reason for this increase is. So with those 3 changes, the total budget then becomes, in the current fund, $20,202,344.46, and in the water sewer utility budget, it's $4,575,207.55.
And that will not increase the tax levy, it's still the same.
No, it's still the same.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, we'll open it up for public comment just on the amendment. If anybody has any questions about the amendment and change to the budget. All right, any opposed, seeing none?
motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-117, a resolution adopting the 2022 budget and budget amendment?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walker?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Okay, now we have sidewalk assessment hearing. I guess we just open it up to the public, or anybody have any questions on it?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself. I'm actually going to go down there, so
Oh, all right.
not open my mouth.
April, we open it up to the public hearing? All right, anybody from the public want to talk about the sidewalk assessment?
I do.
Yes.
Hi.
I'm so sorry.
Come on up to the microphone, your name and address, please.
Great. Hi, I'm Lori Glacier, 116 19th Avenue, Belmar. So I received a letter stating the sidewalk tax. I wasn't aware of it. I purchased the home in March of 2020. When the title search was done, there was no lien on the property, no such mention of taxes to be stated, so I'm not sure why. It wasn't, the original homeowner did not say anything to me, so I'm not sure why I should be responsible for $1,700 worth of sidewalk that I was not aware of.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So, ma'am, the way it works with a special assessment is the special assessment was required to be adopted and imposed on the properties back in 2016 and 2017. It never did. Unfortunately, the homeowner who you purchased the property from should have disclosed that to you, but
I
they
understand
didn't.
that, but there was also a title search done.
And I understand that. Now, what I was getting to was the only reason why this didn't show up on your title search is because this process that we're in right now didn't occur. This should have happened back in 2018, back in 2018, but it didn't. Now, in 2019, going into 2020, we were prepared to institute it, but then COVID-19 happened, and that unfortunately dominoed the delay, and here we are now. There's no excuse for the homeowner to not have disclosed that to you. Unfortunately, the special assessment does run with the land and is a taxable lien against the property. There's no way to forgive it. There's no way to avoid it. It was duly adopted in 2016 and 2017, and it can't just be pushed aside.
And why was it not reassessed or talked about in 2018? What happened there? What happened? Why wasn't it reassessed then or talked about?
Unfortunately, I wasn't the attorney in
So
2018,
who's
but what I,
responsible for that? Is that the town or
It
the
would have
attorney at
been-
that point?
it
or-
would have been the previous administration at that time's obligation
So,
to perform this process that went right now. Unfortunately, they didn't, so now this mayor and
So
council is
I-
forced to.
Mayor, I just don't understand why, if it was missed in 2018, why I should, as a new homeowner and a new person to this town, I just don't understand why I should be responsible for $1,700. Nor, as well, I spoke to a few of my neighbors, and the woman, next to me is $700, I'm $1,700, like, it's, the one's $1,400, they unfortunately couldn't be here today. How do you justify the squares? I think I have like two or three of them. Do you go by the squares that? I'm just
Based
on
on
not
the
sure
square
how.
footage required.
It was based on the square footage of the linear frontage, which was approved. So it depends on what was done. We did have a previous hearing when people came out and properties were re-inspected, and the commissioners did
When was
create
that?
a
I
report.
missed that.
I do apologize, ma'am, one more time.
But then, when was that?
The initial, I believe it was, if I'm going correctly, May 18th, which was the Thursday. But
May 18th of this year?
of this year, yes, ma'am.
I don't think I was notified of that.
You would have received a letter.
I actually received a letter the day after the meeting took place. So, of course, I would have been here if I was notified about that meeting.
Bear with me 1 second. I have to go back to my.
Sorry, I don't mean to be.
No, it's your
I'm just like a
asking
little
the question.
upset about this.
Lorraine, do you recall the day of that meeting? Was it the 18th,
June 16th.
June 16th?
Yes.
So it was, thank you. So it was June 16th, not May. That's when the initial hearing was on this matter. And the engineer was present, and we did a full explanation, and any properties that needed to be reevaluated, they were. the mayor at the previous council meeting, and the council actually adopted, there was initially an engineering cost which was associated with the assessment, which the borough of Belmar was capable of forgiving because of inadequate notice at the time of the actual special assessment ordinance being adopted. Again, I can understand and appreciate your frustration, but the way the special assessment works and the way the lien works is it runs with the land, regardless of the circumstances. It should have been disclosed to you by the homeowner who you purchased it from. All I can tell you to do is I would recommend that you speak with legal counsel about that, because I can't advise you on how to proceed.
Okay, and then again, the square footage, I'm not, you know, an expert in that, obviously, but it appears that the sidewalk squares are similar sizes as mine and my neighbors, and we're all charged different with the same amount of work done, it appears to me.
Maybe we go out and we'll check
Yeah.
exactly what you had and measure out for you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And then again, I need to speak to legal counsel regarding,
All I can do
or
is,
what do you suggest? I'm sorry.
that you would have to speak with legal counsel on how to proceed. I can't tell you what to do, but that's all I can tell you.
So is the town at all acknowledging the 2018 mishap, or?
Yes, they did, and they actually forgave the engineering fees and absorbed it as a general line item. So,
Okay.
for example, some properties, in addition to your 1700 only because I like easy math, I'm not good at it. you
I
could
was
have been-
22, but now I'm 17.
So it could, yeah,
It
so
was 22.
there was a portion which was forgiven.
Uh-huh.
And that's what the mayor and council did because of the inadequate notice back in
Okay.
2016 and 2017 of those engineering fees.
Okay, all right, thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
What's the address again, I'm sorry?
116, 19?
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon, good evening, I guess. Tony Almeida, 419 10th Avenue in Belmar. I find exception to the sidewalk assessment program. My wife and I were also new homeowners in the community. We were hit with a $5,042 bill. You had just said to the young lady that was up here that the lien stays with the property. What lien did the municipality issue on the
So-
property?
Probably lien wasn't the appropriate term. The appropriate term is more of special assessment. So the way special assessment operates is when the ordinance is adopted for a special improvement, the cost of said improvement gets assessed against the property. Now, that gets treated as essentially a payment from your taxes. Should you choose to elect to not pay it, then the cost of the special assessment will be imposed as a lien against the property, similar to a tax lien for failing to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So that's, the special assessment runs with the property, and the failure would be assessed as a lien.
So, this is a voluntary program, right, that was done by the municipality?
In 2016 and 2017, again, I wasn't the attorney at that time, so I can only speak off of what the record has demonstrated to myself. It was a program where it was an opt-in or opt-out. So if you opted into it and you just coined somebody on at the prior meeting because your property was on the naughty list, you would opt into this mass bulk process where you would get a cheaper discount on performing the sidewalk repairs. Now, if you opted out, you had to do it on your own. And if you didn't do it on your own, the borough indicated that they would be fining those properties in 2016 and 2017 for the ones who didn't voluntarily opt in.
So, in 2016, I have a signed contract by the previous owner of my property.
Yes.
It's executed by him. It's not signed by the municipality. It is not signed by the engineer. It is not dated.
Mhm.
Right? Voluntary program, the previous owner executed a contract with the municipality.
Mhm.
Isn't he liable for a lien against the property?
No, because it runs with this, it's a special assessment that is assessed to the property itself, not the person. My same advice
I
would be
understand.
like to contact legal counsel for
I
the reason why it wasn't
understand.
disclosed.
Let's fast forward. The municipality issues a certificate of occupancy for resale,
Yes,
correct?
correct,
And at that time, the municipality checks that back taxes are paid,
correct,
water bills are paid,
correct.
and that the house is current to code for resale.
That's correct.
Does the municipality have a fiduciary responsibility to notify the new purchaser of a special assessment on their property? And/or should that come up while a certificate of occupancy for resale is being addressed to a new owner.
So it would only come up after this hearing occurred. So
Okay.
there's no way to flag something and put it in the system without this hearing having occurred.
But how do you flag delinquent taxes?
Well, it'd be.
How do you flag delinquent water bills? How do you flag animal house ordinance bonds?
Because there's a record reflecting
Sure.
the past bill.
There's a record, it's right here, 2016.
Correct. And as I previously explained, in 2018, this hearing should have occurred,
Mhm.
so the record would have been in place.
Right.
However, it never did.
Why?
That's why, again, I wasn't the attorney in 2018, so all I can say is that the
Yeah.
previous administration should have, but they didn't.
Mhm.
Then 2019, as I previously explained, we were prepared to move forward, but then COVID-19 hit, and imposing a special assessment on residents is the last thing you want to do when you're dealing with the onset of COVID.
I certainly understand
So
that. And I
that's
hope-
kind of where we're at right
I
now.
hope the council sees, I can't be the only one in this boat, obviously, there's another lady here. I mean, $4,000 after the engineering fees were removed, it's a significant amount of money. My wife and I are in the process now of making improvements. So if I'm to pay a $4,000 bill to the municipality, I would expect that the municipality and the engineer are going to show me documentation, including photographs, that this work was performed. Is that correct? How am I going to pay for something that I don't even know was done?
Well, you could re-inspect the property if that's what you're asking, just the same thing that we did for the previous.
And what do you mean by re-inspect? A site visit to see?
There would be a site visit. I'm assuming our engineer would be there, and the engineer would be able to certify whether or not the work was done in accordance with the contract. Again, I can't go in back in time and create something
I
that
understand.
doesn't exist.
You're in a hard spot.
Yeah, you see our position.
I do, and I hope you see mine.
I do, and I would
That I'm
be-
not going to pay an assessment based on something that's a contract between the previous owner.
Well, it's not a contract, it's a special assessment which was duly adopted in 2016 and 2017. The contract that you're holding in your hand was with the concrete individual, or the concrete contractor. Now, that was just to identify the amount of work which was to be performed, but the cost of which was paid by the borough, and therefore pursuant to the special assessment ordinance in 2016 and 2017, depending on which property was yours is subject to, then is assessed against the property to recoup those costs that was previously paid by the borough. Now,
I'm sympathetic to the borough and the fact that, yes, there's a $4,000 bill withstanding, but I'm sure as a homeowner, the council can sit here and say to myself, how do you pay for something without even knowing if it was completed?
Well, we'll Bridget, to us, look at the paperwork, and I'll get somebody down to, we'll call you, I'll get your number. This was all inherited by this mayor and council,
Totally understand.
okay? And we feel your pain. It should have been cleared up in 16, 17, and 18. What we can do is I'll get your information, we'll see what work was done, we'll plot all the records, and we'll take care of that for you. And then, like council said, special assessment, it goes with the property. But we'll do our due diligence again and look at the property, see if it was.
So I think moving forward, since this is not going to be the last time this is going to happen, we should make a note that if there's a special assessment, that the municipality has a fiduciary responsibility to notify a contract purchaser and/or not issue a certificate of occupancy for resale until it's addressed. And that needs to go in place immediately, because you cannot have these things occurring. $1,700 is a lot of money. $5,000 is a lot of money. How many other new homeowners in this community have received these bills and that they're not aware of? And I understand we can all say that the previous owner had a responsibility, and to her defense, if a lien was truly put against the property, it would have showed up in the title search.
correct.
And we can go in circles on that. My bottom line is, municipality issued a CO for resale, it should have been picked up, I don't care by who. At that point, the property's not clear to sell until that burden is paid by the previous owner.
And again, I understand your frustration. I'm going to say this probably until I'm blue in the face.
Yep.
But there's no triggering mechanism without this hearing. So this hearing didn't occur previously.
Wait,
Unfortunately,
how could you say that and you said here, that makes zero sense to me. Belmar Borough Sidewalk Program Property Owner Contractor Agreement. It's in my hands. the people that are supposed to sign it, the owner, the contractor, and the code official for Belmar.
Yes.
So the contract is not with me, the new homeowner, it's with the municipality, the previous owner, and the general contractor.
Pursuant to the special assessment statute and special assessment ordinance,
Right.
which is for the property in question, not the individual. So the taxes and the assessment should have been performed after this hearing, it gets imposed. Then it gets paid. If it doesn't get paid, then a lien gets imposed. So there's no triggering mechanism to recognize this outstanding cost without this hearing.
And we agree with you, we inherited this, and as we've moved forward with this administration, we've uncovered a lot of things that weren't right.
Correct.
So that's what we're trying to fix.
I agree, and I just want to make sure moving forward that.
Sure,
you
we
guys
agree,
get a
but
handle.
moving forward,
Right. It's
won't
not
happen.
gonna happen. Sorry, one more thing. If you had the contractor that bid the work, price the sidewalk per square foot, price the curbing per linear foot, which means you have a price, right? $30 a linear foot for curbing, remove, replace, install. So if they're saying here 135 linear feet, I don't understand how you can't come up with a mathematic number to know that this should be targeted on a specific property.
Because, again, we need this hearing.
To
There's,
make that
unfortunately,
happen. All right.
there's a process that we have to file. Like, I wish we didn't have to, because
Yeah.
it makes, sometimes it makes things
Understand.
easier, but it's a process,
Understand?
which should have been filed, should have been followed, should have been done, but here we are now trying to.
Listen, I feel for the borough and our new administration that, and unfortunately as homeowners, we have to stick up for what we believe in is right, and
Absolutely, I can agree
this
with
is
you.
just one of those things that, it's an unfortunate circumstance. We don't want to push the issue too much, but we're going to have to, because that's a pretty big burden for a young family to come into town and just all of a sudden just chalk it up. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
I have a question.
Address though, I'm so sorry. that also-
419 10th Avenue, Alameda, ALMEID.
you sent us a letter also, didn't you?
I did.
Okay,
Yes,
what's your address?
Appreciate it, 419 10th.
Okay.
So the hearing that you're talking about and resolution that we're voting on, should that have happened and been done before the work was done?
No, so the way it works is you have a special, you adopt the special assessment ordinance, the work gets done. Thereafter, the work is certified by the engineer for performing the work, and it gets presented to the Commissioner of Assessment. The Commissioner of Assessment then has a preliminary hearing that gets noticed to all the affected homeowners that are in this special assessment to come in, and at that time, you can talk about, well, I got billed for this much work, but only this much work actually occurred. And it gives an opportunity for the commissioners to have their engineer go back out, re-inspect the property, and thereafter the commissioners issue a report. Now, the report and the preliminary hearing is then presented to mayor and council, which was at the previous council meeting. Thereafter, you have a finalized hearing to adopt the report of the commissioners, which then imposes the special assessment on the individual property. So there's like a 10-step process that actually has to occur. The problem here is the work was performed, the work was certified as being performed, and then the preliminary hearing didn't occur, and then the initial hearing to the mayor and council didn't occur, and then this hearing that we need to occur right now didn't occur.
Understood. I think it sounds to me like there was a very large window, right, when the work got done but didn't get built.
Yes.
In my case, 6 years.
Right, sure. Totally get it. It sounds to me
Now,
like
can we talk about the engineering costs that
yeah.
were, and that's the problem, that's the reason why we had to drop the engineering costs, because there was so much problems with the engineering costs, and to try to figure out what was paid, what was overcharged, and try to figure it was such a mess that we had to drop the engineering costs.
I can imagine.
So, by the time our CFO and the finance team got a chance to figure that out, that took months, right? To just figure all that out.
We literally had to start from scratch to come up with the whole protocol that needed to be followed in order to appropriately assess the special assessment to the properties. And as Mr. Barger explained, that took place when we had the preliminary hearing on June 16th, and then followed up by having council adopt a resolution at the last meeting waiving the engineering fees, and then now this is the council would accept the report of findings and determination so that we can move forward and literally assess the properties for the costs that have been determined to be what we feel is accurate at this point.
Right, so you can see that there was problems along the whole way to try to
I
straighten
certainly
this.
understand it.
this-
I appreciate everybody's time. I would like to go on record, though, similar to the young lady before me, the letters dated June 1st. I received it June 29th. So it was postmarked the 28th. The hearing to meet the engineers was the 16th.
No, there were two letters that were sent, sir.
I have them both. One's dated June 1st and one's dated
The one that was
July
dated
11th.
June 1st was the notice of the June 16th hearing.
Correct, which I
The
received
what?
on June 29th.
Okay, that I can't,
And
I
that was
can,
a common occurrence, ma'am, which is what I'm trying to bring to the board. is
we
that-
understand, but we don't have any control over how the postal service delivers the letters.
No, ma'am,
But-
it was postmarked the 28th and received in the Amazon.
Okay, the only letter that was postmarked after that was the second letter that indicated what the actual cost was to the property owner for the special assessment based on the work that was done, waiving the engineering fees. So that was a second letter that was distributed. So there were two letters, actually.
I have them both.
Okay.
At the meeting with the engineers, then, they had drawings, sketches, photography of the actual work performed on each property, or
They had,
as-bills?
no.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, April, seeing none.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do need council to adopt to accept the findings and determinations report and the conclusions thereof. It includes the Schedule A, which is a list of all the properties and the value of the work that was done for each property. And then we have a reduced copy of the mapping, which is also becomes a part of the findings and determination report. The mapping indicates which properties had some work done, and it clearly delineates which properties those were.
And I have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-118, a resolution adopting and confirming the report of Assessment Board with respect to the voluntary sidewalk improvement project.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Okay. On the petitions, April, we have any?
I did not receive any.
Approval of the minutes, June 21.
And I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 21st meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Where's the council? Councilman Carvelli.
Thank you, Mayor. None of my boards have met. The planning board meeting is next Monday, and the harbor commission is next Tuesday, so I'll report on that. Other than that, let's see, I attended the plaque dedication for the Negro Baseball League. I encourage everybody to go and check it out. It's on Railroad Ave behind the home plate. Also, just wanted to say that the fireworks and light show were great. I think it's, we do it every year, so thank you to everybody that put that together. And how was the light show paid for?
The light show was paid for by Jersey Mike's from 10th Avenue and Ocean. They took care of everything so that we could raise money for recovering warriors. And I think the mayor will have a report on that.
Thank you. That's my report. Thanks.
Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First I want to say thank you to all the people who sent their thoughts and prayers and expressed their condolences on the passing of my sister. It was very unexpected. She actually was younger than I am, so that was quite a shock. And, you know, my family, as families do, we're working through it. That's, again, I want to thank you. On a more pleasant note, you might have noticed if you go by the public library, by the big Bruce Springsteen guitar model, there's a brand new blue and white sign for the treasure trail with a QR code on it. We've gotten those signs in. Those of you who have heard me talk about this, it's been an ongoing project that we're trying to revive. It's a podcast, it's a walking tour of town. There are 50 stops. We had it up in 2011 and then Sandy took it down, and now we're finally getting it back together. I want to thank Bill Musto from DPW for getting those signs up. Some of them were just straight up replace what was there. There's more signs coming. So if you see them, please feel free, take out your cell phone, use the QR code, and learn all kinds of cool stuff about our town. The Revolutionary War battle, the Titanic survivor, George and Ira Gershwin living in town here. Yeah, it's really very interesting. Okay, that's my report. Thank you.
Councilwoman Keane?
Thank you, Mayor Walsper. I also went to the laser light show and the fireworks. I thought they were great. I thought whoever did the people that we got this year, I thought they did a fabulous job. The Jersey Mike's did sponsor for the Rebuilding Warriors, and I just thought the whole thing was really good. And wound up being good weather also, because it wasn't looking so good. I also didn't have any meetings this past month. Our next recreation meeting is July 28th, and the next ADA meeting is going to be August 18th. Couple things around the school. Belmar Elementary School is on their summer hours, Monday through Thursday from 8 to 3. And they do have a really good-looking enrichment program. If you have kids or anybody, it's August 8th to the 11th, and the contact is for Lauren Seal at the school. So you should contact Lauren Seal. Not much going around St. Rose High School and Grammar School. However, both schools did get new principals this year. So we're welcoming new principal Jennifer Conover at the grammar school. And Robert Doherty is going to be the new principal at the high school. And they are both grammar school, St. Rose Grammar School and high school alumni, which is nice. And then St. Rose High School is celebrating their 100th anniversary this upcoming year. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on at the high school for that. And then the only other thing I can report on, I know Nixle, for our Nixle, we've been updating, John has been really busy, hard at work updating all the town's business information. So contact information, website information, phone numbers, all of that is going to be compiled. So everybody is going to be included in the town if you have a business in this town moving forward. And that is all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Couple things that I have. One, I want to thank the police department. June 30th, we had one of those beach pop-up parties advertised. And they were going to come to the 8th Avenue Beach, and our police department worked diligently to find out who the promoter was and get to that promoter to make sure that they canceled that event, in which they did. So we really do appreciate that. Would have been a scary thing having them come here. I also want to thank our police, our fire department, and everybody that was involved in the fireworks. You know, I went down there, they had to close off some streets, and the fire department did a great job standing by. And for Rebuilding Warriors, at that event, we raised a little over $6,500, which was nice. It'll go towards one of the service dogs on the Rebuilding Warriors people, so hopefully we can get another service dog for them. But it was nice to have an event that we could raise some money for a great cause. And we're about halfway through summer, and everything seems to be moving along. Thanks to DPW, they're doing a great job down there. I think that's all I have, so we'll move on to public session for resolution items. If anybody has any questions about our resolution items.
Can I have a motion motion to close the public session?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on consent agenda number 1?
Motion?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve the two resolutions listed on consent agenda number 2?
I'll make the motion.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next, we have first reading and introduction on ordinance 2022-12. This is a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements and acquisitions appropriating $2,205,500. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
And then we have ordinance 2022-13. This is a bond ordinance providing for various water sewer utility improvements appropriating $725,000. We have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction.
Motion?
Me, sorry, second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes. All right, on the public session. Yes, Brady.
Can I give you some pictures?
Sure.
Sure.
Are they all the same?
No. Oh, here's a composite if you want to see. You want to see?
I do want to see.
I'm not really great at public speaking, but I'll do my best. My name is Randy Brazell. I live at 101 11th Avenue. I wanted to thank the DPW for responding to my call about a sinkhole in front of my driveway. You came out this very same day and made the repair the very next day, and I really appreciate your care for our neighborhood. Thank you. Thanks for the beautiful fireworks on July 1st. It's really great to see it from the beach. My husband stayed home because he has a boot on his foot. Oh, he's wearing it today. Because we're dog sitting our dog, a grand dog, and the dog's afraid of fireworks, he stayed home with her. But it really didn't matter because we had our own personal fireworks display as a result of my neighbor to the west at 103 11th Avenue, who thought it would be appropriate and acceptable to shoot fireworks, not firecrackers, off of his flat roof and his yard on July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I understand that it was July 4th weekend. I understand that this is Belmar. If we choose to live here, we sometimes have to tolerate things that may be uncommon in other towns. However, as some of you on this dais know, I and some of my other neighbors have had to tolerate a lot coming from my neighbor to the west. We have a police department that we're told to call if we have any quality of life issues. We have a community policing program, and I am the block captain for my little portion of 11th Avenue. I have been told by those in charge of community policing to call, call, call. Well, our police department and many of you on this dais are aware of the issues my neighbor to the west creates. I had spoken to a few officers over the years and had spoken to Mr. Kirschenbaum. I've spoken to you, Mr. Mayor, on multiple occasions. You've tried. I know you've tried. However, the best advice that you've all given me is, if I have a problem, I should call the police. Well, a bunch of neighbors did call the police over the July 4th weekend about the fireworks coming from my neighbor to the west. My backyard neighbor, Jane McGill, called me on July 2nd to tell me that when she was outside in front of her home, she was scared because the fireworks were raining down over my property and home and hers. Her husband texted with the offending neighbor, who said that the fireworks wouldn't last all night. I did not call the police that night because I didn't want to have a negative interaction with that neighbor, because I've had negative interactions with him before. On that same night of July 2nd, a friend of mine at 106 12th Avenue called the police because of some rowdiness on 12th. Just as she was talking to the police, my neighbor to the west set off some fireworks into the air, causing her new puppy to run away. The police had to set off on foot to catch the dog. The dog was scared and startled. The police at that point knew about the fireworks on 11. On July 3rd, I received a phone call from my neighbor's daughter at 102 11th Avenue. Rona Moses, who owns that home, is like a mother to me. Her daughter called me to ask what to do about the latest onslaught of fireworks coming from my neighbor to the west. I told her to call the police. Because I wanted to support them, I too called the police and was told that there had been other calls about this. To my knowledge, the police came to the property at least 3 times, and I am told by a neighbor that that neighbor to the west just said he would stop when confronted by the police. This happened on 3 different occasions within a couple of hours period of time. So he apologized, said it would stop, but after the police left on their bicycles, he kept going. I am told by Officer Fabian that he actually saw the fireworks in the air. Not 1 ticket was issued, not 1. On July 4th, after playing a nice game of Mahjong on my porch with some of my neighbors who are here tonight, I went down my driveway to put some folding chairs away in the garage. After cleaning the debris from my neighbor's fireworks off of the decks that we had just refinished, I noticed some fireworks debris on the driveway and the hood of my car, along with a scratch on the hood that went deep below the panes. No reasonable person would think that this damage came from anyone or anything else other than my neighbor's fireworks that shot up in the sky and rained down over my house and the homes of my neighbors. Of course I was upset because I had promised myself to ignore this neighbor. But I couldn't. He was on his porch as I was going back into my house, and I told him what I discovered. He said, quote, "I'll pay for it," and something to the effect of, "I'll sweep your decks," in a very sarcastic and disingenuous way. He said he was sorry, also very disingenuously. Some of my neighbors have received his apologies when they are confronted when he is confronted about his uplights in his backyard shining into their windows, or when he is talking and cursing way too loud outside in the middle of the night. I then made the mistake of saying that I was counting the days until he left. He told me he wasn't going anywhere. I did lose my cool. I just was so upset. I told him that I would like to call the police to report the incident to memorialize what he told me. He then told me that I could not prove that the damage to my car was from him. This, of course, was after he apologized and offered to pay for the damage. So I finally did what everybody told me to do. I called the police. First, 2 bicycle police came, and I requested a patrol car, and then Officer Poppert arrived. They were all very polite, saw the debris that my husband had collected off of our decks, and I have the debris in my pocketbook if you'd like to see it. Because I think that sometimes show and tell is helpful. They saw the fireworks on the hood of my car, along with the scratch. Officer Fabian then arrived in another patrol car and told me that he in fact saw the fireworks in the air last evening because he was the officer that visited with my neighbor after I think was the 3rd call by Mrs. Moses. By the way, unless I'm reading the Oprah report that I requested wrong, I don't see all those calls referenced in the Oprah report. I just don't. I know that at least 4 calls were made. I'm sure there were more. Now, 1 ticket had been given to my neighbor to the west, even by the officer who in fact saw the fireworks. I was told that my neighbor would be charged with criminal mischief. I was asked by Officer Popper to send him photos that I had taken of the debris, the damage to my car, and the empty fireworks boxes that were on the neighbor's property. I did just that. Let's talk about what those boxes say. I think the pictures show it. They say, "Warning, shoots flaming balls and reports." I had to look up what reports mean, but I now know what it means. I think that means that those fireworks are kind of dangerous. So, after I sent the photos, I believe that Officer Popper and the other officers talked to my neighbor, who evidently told them that my damage did not come from him. I was then told that since Officer Popper didn't see the fireworks fall onto my car himself, he could not swear out the complaint, but I should. Even if he didn't see it, Officer Fabian did see the fireworks high in the sky, as my entire neighborhood did. Some of my neighbors are here this evening. Jane McGill, my neighbor to the south, is not here because she's afraid of repercussions from that neighbor to the west. By the way, so am I. I want to know why this guy got so many free passes. Law-abiding citizens who, do not purposely rev the engines of their 2 Ferraris in their driveway, who do not purposely blast music from an outdoor speaker pointed at my house on Mother's Day 2020 because I had the nerve to inquire about the rules regarding fire pits, who do not purposely have a strobe light pointed into my kitchen window from their home, who do not purposely light a fire pit in the rain and leave it to smolder and smell up the neighborhood, or light it up on a beautifully cool day that prevents neighbors from opening their windows because of the smoke and smell, who do not have uplights in their backyard or a spotlight on the side of their home that shines into their neighbors' homes, who do not say very bad things to the police officers when confronted by them. You can look up the police reports yourself and you can see the things that he said to your police department. Law-abiding citizens do not deserve not to be taken seriously by our police or governing body. You told me what to do, and I did it. Now do your part. Mr. Brennan, you may recall that we spoke at one of your campaign get-togethers about the fact that the borough had totally screwed up and didn't follow through with a planning board requirement when 103 and 105 11th should have been merged. 103 is now sold, and would never, and the improvements on that lot would have never been granted if it had gone before a planning board on that, for that one lot. Everybody knows it. You told me, maybe you don't recall, but I do, you told me I may have to sue the town in order to get this corrected. Let's think about that. You want me to sue you to fix the borough's mistake using my tax dollars to defend my own lawsuit? Mr. Kirshenbaum, you told me that that you had made the police aware of my issues a few years back. You told me to call the police, and in fact I did. In fact, you put the police in touch with me, and there's a record of that police interaction, and I thank you for that, I really do. I was told again to keep calling the police. This time I did call, so did my other neighbors. I did the detective work for this borough. I provided you photos, I showed you the debris. The police saw the debris and the damage to my car. My neighbor to the west was the only person in my immediate vicinity that shut off fireworks of that magnitude. Officer Fabian saw it with his own eyes, and that was after the 3rd call. But still no violation? When my daughter was 2 years old, and after a good night of trick-or-treating, we told her she couldn't eat the chocolate that night. But she did. The chocolate was all over her face. We asked her, hey Lara, what's with the chocolate on your face? And her answer was, as a 2-year-old would say, not me, I didn't eat it. Well, look in the mirror. It's there. It's obvious. Same here. Mr. Mayor, in addition to being my neighbor, you're my neighbor. You're my neighbor. You hear the cars revving in the driveway and up Ocean Avenue. I don't worry too much about those pop-up rallies because I have one next to me every time those 2 Ferraris are purposely revved. You certainly saw and heard the fireworks, yet despite many conversations with you, you too did nothing that night. I know you've tried on prior occasions. I know you have. This time was an epic fail. My neighbor, your neighbor at 102 11th Avenue, Rona Moses, and her daughter and son-in-law called the police 3 times. The police came 3 times, yet still no tickets. I'm not sure which of the times the fireworks caused the damage to my car, but perhaps if something was done the very first time, I wouldn't have any damage. So I did call the police on July 3rd. So did my neighbors, and that is what we were told to do. And now I fear that it is me, or my home, or my quality of life that will have the repercussions. That's always been my fear, as I have expressed to you and to the police. You're supposed to have a 0 tolerance when it comes to safety-related issues. You sometimes give out noise violations without any warnings. That's just noise. These fireworks impinge upon the safety of all of the surrounding homes and anyone else that was outside trying to enjoy the beautiful evening. 3 free passes? All you had to do was look at the video from my neighbor's cameras. I have that video here if you'd like to see it. I know that the police have seen it, because I've sent it to them. These were not Costco fireworks. These were real, dangerous fireworks. I'm failing to understand why, considering what I have read in the police records that I have obtained as a result of an Oprah request. My neighbor to the west said some pretty ugly things to the police on a few prior occasions. By the way, those Oprah request results do not accurately reflect all of the calls made to the police regarding 10311. I know so because some of my calls were not documented going back to 2019. All I can say is I'm just really sad. I'll take those pictures back because I need to file them.
Chief, you got anything to add to that?
And I wrote this before I spoke to you yesterday. I did speak to Chief Scott. She was away that weekend. I spoke to Captain Campbell, who, by the way, was not as polite as the other officers. I'll put that on record. He wasn't. I really appreciate you calling back. I know that you were away, and I appreciate that. And
I did look into it. It's not uncommon. I pulled all the calls from that night on July 3rd. There were 6 calls made to the police department. 3 of them were within seconds of each other, so it's not uncommon for the dispatchers that if they're being inundated with calls, that if they have 3 calls or 4 calls for the same location, that they will just make one incident. So
where were the reports to the police that came, though? There were 2 bicycle police came once, 2 bicycle police came a second time, and then Officer Fabian came the 3rd time. I didn't see that anywhere in the Oprah request.
I'm trying to find that out, because there is no reports for the first 2 calls.
Well,
Being as honest
I
as
appreciate
I
that.
can.
And Chief Scott will tell you that
I
she
will
agrees with
say
me.
that the bicycle officers are special 2 officers. A lot of them are new. They could have been under the impression that if it was a gone upon arrival, they didn't see the fireworks, then they didn't have to write a report. But that is being looked into and why the reports were not written. And I also looked into the arrest that you were talking about, and I can't go into details just for reasons. But the arrest you were speaking about in 2019, it was not an arrest for fireworks. It was an arrest for obstruction.
Okay.
He wouldn't give the officer his
I
identification.
heard the whole interaction with the police from my window. I heard it. And the call, however, was for fireworks, because I made that
I know, the
call.
initial call was for
That
fireworks. but
call
that's
was not in the Oprah report either.
That was, because the way you worded the over request, it was for the owner's name, the resident's name.
And/or 103 11th Avenue. I wrote it myself. I know what I wrote. I'll take it. Thank you. And I have some other neighbors who'd like to speak about that as well.
Chief, you can get some of those things together and we can go over them.
Absolutely.
All right, anyone else? Yes, Linda.
Linda Marcus, 4th Avenue. On a similar topic, I'm the block captain for 3rd, 4th, and Inland Terrace. And one of the people in my area had contacted me asking if we could address eliminating the use of, they call them commercial fireworks in the neighborhoods, because in their area, they experience a similar thing. And in 2017, Governor Christie approved some fireworks, and these included sparkling devices and novelties legally available in New Jersey are non-aerial, ground-based, or handheld devices that do not explode. Those that are not permitted and remain illegal in New Jersey are skyrockets, bottle rockets, firecrackers, and other explosive devices. The fine for using any of those latter fireworks is anyone who's caught using or transporting the fireworks in New Jersey without a valid permit can be charged with a petty disorderly persons offense and is subject to a sentence up to 30 days of county jail and a fine of $500. I'd like to see some of this put into effect, because when these rockets or large fireworks go off, some of us have flammable houses. They're balloon construction. They have vinyl siding. One of those hits that. It's a disaster waiting to happen. So I hope before it does, we could work to control this during the holidays. Thank you. And have a great display on Ocean Avenue because it was beautiful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
How are you?
Good.
All right, so without being very
Name and
repetitive.
address.
102 11th Avenue, Randy's neighbor. And
Name,
this,
you gotta say your name.
Karen Ray.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. This incident had a very negative impact on our family as well. You know, we teach our children about consequences, you know, actions and consequences. And I just don't feel that any consequence came of this. We were, you know, I actually wrote that Belmar has always been a beautiful and peaceful place to live, relax, and enjoy the beautiful sea. We all work together to enjoy this gift. I have been coming to Belmar since I was born and have always loved the way that neighbors become friends and look out for each other. I've never had a complaint against anyone or ever had to call the police on anyone until this past week. I thought it was July 4th, but obviously it was July 3rd. My family and I were relaxing on our porch. We noticed a lot of activity across the street on that familiar address that you all know. Partying on their roof was fine until the setting up of the firework explosions began. And I'm not joking, they were explosions. They were real bombs that were coming off. I mean, we had other neighbors that were, you know, that had fireworks, but they weren't bad. It was a deafening explosion. We had 3 dogs in the house. The dogs were terrified. They were running around. We couldn't calm them down. We finally got them in the house, hoping that it would be the end. I called the police. 2 police officers came over. They asked them to stop. The owner of the house said, "This is the last one." And as the officers left, he was laughing. And the people were up on the roof getting ready to take pictures of the next explosion. My husband went over to talk to them, but they just did what they wanted to do. I was very just disappointed and angry at the way that this was handled. 3 times the police came, but there were no consequences. I teach high school, and I know one of the things that I try to explain, you know, to my students is that what you do, think about what you do. Think about the decisions that you make in life, because there are always consequences for what you do. But apparently there weren't any. I don't understand how this was ignored, I'm sorry. I agree with warnings. I think everybody is entitled to a warning, even 2 warnings. But this went on for a while, and it was very frightening. I just feel that we were treated very unfairly that night. I didn't feel very protected or cared about. You know, if you see something, say something, but that did not hold true. I do have, my mom has the Ring, the doorbell. We have all the pictures, the sounds, the conversations that were picked up between the police officer and the owner of the house. So if you're interested in that, I can share that with you, but that's it. So thank you for listening.
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, Art Emmermuller, 10612. My property is on the other side of the subject property. So my daughter was calling the police at the moment when she was calling about actually the problem with the 5 summer rentals across the street. That was chaos was happening. People were falling, you know, sleep in our driveway. It was, you know, another Saturday night in Belmar, my block, my peaceful Belmar. And at the moment she's trying to call the police about what was going on, the bomb went off from behind. Her dog took off because she had to give an explanation to the dispatcher about exactly what was happening in order to get an officer there. Dog sprints out. Thank God, you must have had a world-class sprinter as a detective, as a patrolman, because he chased that dog to A Street, to 11th, down 11th to Ocean, south on Ocean to 12th, and caught the dog, and then returned it, you know, safely to my daughter. So I'm just saying, unnecessary, and I do corroborate what Randy said. It's crazy, and let alone with the summer rentals. I mean, people complain about the Belmar Inn. What's going on in the summer rentals across the street is way worse than anything else that I've seen going on in the last 20 years at Belmar, especially this summer. I'm calling, it's not much is happening. I'm not seeing any fines, I don't know what's going on. We call, nothing happens. And there's 5, you guys know, there's 5 summer rentals that are out of control on 12th Avenue. 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Amy Penn. I live at 401 11th Avenue in Belmar. First off, I've never spoken before you people before, but Randy's situation is out of control. I've been a friend of Randy's for 8 years since I moved here, beautiful Belmar. I've been at her house many times. I've been there when the neighbor drives up and leaves the gas running in the car without thinking about it while we're playing mahjong on her porch, until her husband has to come out and say, can you shut off the engine? This is not neighborly. I've been there when the neighbor lights a fire pit and we have to close all the windows in the house because we can't breathe. And now she has this problem with fireworks that you guys were alerted to and nothing happened. I don't know how much more any resident of this town should have to take without repercussions on this one person or one family that's really causing neighbors and neighbors to not be comfortable in their own homes. So I really think you all have to look at this and come up with some sort of punishment, tickets, anything, so that Randy and myself and the other neighbors can enjoy our town of Belmar as well. Thank you.
Well, this is the first we're hearing that no summonses were given, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it.
Why can't a summons be issued now?
Just wait, stop, don't answer that question, only because
Why?
if a summons is gonna be issued, it does have to be investigated. It would have to come from the police department. I hear every single thing you just said.
You want to see?
No,
You want to see?
I have seen, but what I need you to understand that there is a process, and the mayor and the council can comment upon it, just to protect the borough's liability, so just do not comment on that. I don't mean to do that, but I can't allow you to comment on that.
All right, yes, in the back.
Hello, Police German area, 606 North Lake Drive. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure, the show was beautiful, but I wasn't here, and I didn't see what happened, but it sounds horrible. So I wish you the best in solving this problem, because it is pretty horrific story to hear that that's the place in our town, so I feel for you. So I was here maybe 2 months ago and brought up the issue of the geese, and so I'm back. I'm back because of the fact that over the last couple of weeks, I received 2 newspapers, the Co-Star, one's dated June 16th, one's dated June 30th, both with big headline stories, geese management agreement for Lake Como. So my bad neighbors are the geese. I have at least 75 of them patrolling up and down my street all day long. The mayor of Spring Lake points out that they produce 1 pound of fecal matter per day per geese. Okay? And she goes on to say these species are in all 3 of our coastal lakes, all over our parks, all over our sidewalks, surrounding our lakes, all over our ball fields. And because it ends up in our storm drains, it ends up in our ocean, ends up at our beaches, blah, blah, blah. It goes on, and really talks to the fact that this is truly a health issue. So, I was told when we were here last time that you guys at one time had a dog. I've been here 7 years on that same place, on the lake, and I've never seen this dog. You had mentioned that you were going to get another dog. Well, it's funny that Lake Como was able to get a dog put on the lake twice a day. And even better, and I'm all in favor for, is what Spring Lake did, which is to euthanize the geese, which is legal, by the way, which I was told here the last time is not legal. But this clearly shows the law and the legality of euthanizing the geese when there is a certain population of 25 geese or more. Well, I can guarantee you, And I don't have pictures, unfortunately. I didn't do my homework like you did, but I can clearly get pictures because I'm there every day. And I work on the second floor and stare at that lake every single day. There's way more than 25 geese. And the beachgoers, I mean, if you walk the lake to go to the beach from my house, it's 3 blocks. I have to walk like this. I mean, it's not normal. And for me to have guests come to my home and I have to dodge the crap all over the floor, it's embarrassing, quite frankly. Something's got to be done about this geese problem. And I think the geese and this guy next door to you all deserve the same penalty.
We don't use them.
I don't know if that's responsible to this issue, but this has got to be dealt with. It's ridiculous. Anything?
We're working on that dog,
We've had a dog that, I guess we haven't had it for 2 years now, but we'll look into what we can do.
And I'm gonna say again, I've been there 7 years. If you had a dog for 5 to 7 of them there, I've never once seen the dog. Not once in the 7 years have I seen a dog control that lake. And the geese problem just gets worse and worse by the day.
I can tell you, we have had dogs out there.
Okay. The same.
My McGovern had a dog, my Campbell had a dog, so I do know that there was dogs out there.
Okay.
It's been a lull for about 1.5 years now, 2 years.
It's bad. Derek?
Yeah, we're still taking the precautions with the eggs and things of that nature, but we know it's getting worse and we're trying to get a handle on it. There are some, I want to say, contraptions that are out there that people use beside dogs. There's other methods that we're trying to look into to get rid of the geese. And
Well, I just hope there can be a commitment that this gets on a higher priority list for the town, because it is really disgusting. And it is definitely a health issue as far as I'm concerned, and now I have proof of that from the various things I've been reading, that it truly is a health issue for the town.
And as far as the law, when we said we can't euthanize the geese, we can't euthanize the geese, but there are ways, there's other ways to do it, and of course, you have several differences of opinion of animal rights activists and things of that nature. So we're between a rock and a hard place sometimes. So
I get it.
Yep.
But something's got to be done. My second issue, which I also brought up the last time I was here, and I apologize if this has been spoken to again. I was actually away, not here on 4th of July. Was the issue on the roads. I know the last time we were here, I brought up that the roads are, again, just someplace you have to drive like you walk around the geese. I have to drive like this to get around the bump. Somebody's going to have an accident.
We get our New Jersey DOT grants since we've been here in 19. We have a comprehensive plan. Hopefully in April, we're going to do a workshop on what our August, what I say, April? August. We're going to do a comprehensive plan in August in regard to a 5 or 10-year plan. We have inlet terraces scheduled to be done after Labor Day. We have to replace the water system. We all went out to bid for that. So we have a plan to take care of the infrastructure within the town, but making sure we do it the right way with the water system, the sewer systems, and then pave them so that we don't rip up any roads if there's any problems. So
will the plan be shared so that we don't?
We're going to have it at workshop in August.
Okay, and then you'll share it after that?
Right, and I know Mr. Musto has had his crew out there filling potholes. I know inlet terrace was so bad because we had to wait. We thought we'd get that done in July, but we actually went out and skim coated that because it was dangerous, and Mayor and Council agreed to go out and skim coated that inlet terrace. So we know for years that the infrastructure wasn't kept up, and we're trying to stay ahead of it with our DOT grants and some of the things that we're putting in place.
Yeah, 8th Avenue is the one that I go down and, like I said.
8th Avenue, 5th Avenue,
Just
7th Avenue.
Yeah, they're really bad.
We've done River Avenue, we're getting 16th Avenue paved after Labor Day. We've done 15th, 12th, and like I just say 16th. What's that? Railroad Avenue. So we. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you have to think about the water system and the sewer system underneath that
No, I get it.
may need to be
Replaced as well.
replaced
We
as
do that before.
right, so it becomes very expensive.
That happened on 15th Avenue where we did the road, we had to do an entire system to budget for that. So we have a full engineering report that we're going to have at workshop in August.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Eric? Oh. Yes, Maria.
1246 Pine Tree Way. This one's boring. A lot of people speed through Pine Tree Way, Briarwood, Oakwood, Maplewood, but I didn't realize, I always thought River Court had an exclusion because they're a dead end. And recently some neighbors have been telling me on River Court that people are making that turn thinking that it goes through to 35. And it's become more dangerous, and that the signage right there on the corner of 16th and River Court needs to be replaced or changed in a way that it can be seen from both sides. So I'd just like to put that to record and see if that could be looked into.
We'll get to it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, let's go.
I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.